Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Let's Rock Your English. Today we have a very special interview with Michael from Happy English. This interview is divided into 3 different parts. The first part you guys are going to watch today. The second one I'll be posting tomorrow, and I'm going to post the third part and last part of this interview on Friday at 6 p.m. Tomorrow at 6 p.m., Friday at 6 p.m. The interview is only in English, so if you want, you can activate the subtitles in Portuguese to better understand it. But if you don't want to do it, feel free to practice your listening comprehension. And now, let's rock your English. First off, my friend, as I told you, it's such a great pleasure for me to have you here today. And this is real, man, because I've been following your work for so long. I listen to your podcast religiously, my friend.
Wow, I appreciate that. That's
awesome. And I also learn a lot, and I use sometimes your podcast to teach my students as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. I'm really, happy, and thank you very much for making time, to have this interview here with me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Good. So, my friend, let me ask you the first question.
Sure.
Actually, I'll ask you 2 questions. The first one, why did you become a teacher? And the second one, how long have you been teaching for?
Wow. Okay. So, those are 2 heavy questions. So first of all, why did I become a teacher? So when I was 18 years old, which is a long, long time ago, I started attending university, a college for music. And at the same time, I was working at a small grocery store in the neighborhood. And one of the regular customers who knew that I was going to school for music, she said, listen, my son is 10 and he wants to learn how to play the guitar. Can you recommend a teacher? So I said, okay, let me find out. So I went to school the next day and I asked one of my professors and he said, they need a teacher? I said, yeah. He said, for who? I said, a 10-year-old kid. So my teacher said, yeah, you're the teacher. He said, yeah. He said, you're a musician. So that's how musicians make a living until they're famous rock stars. So you have to teach. And I said, oh, okay, I'm a teacher. And so that's when I started teaching. And I taught music actually for 14 years, private lessons. And then as that time kind of passed, I got a little bit burned out in the music business. And I thought, what am I going to do? And I ended up becoming an English teacher in Japan. That's the short.
In Japan,
yeah.
Your first experience as an English teacher was in Japan then.
That's right. So I was on the 14-year bachelor's degree program at my college. And in case anybody out there who's watching this is struggling to finish school, or wondering, wow, how long is this going to take? It took me 14 years to get a bachelor's degree in music education and music performance because I was doing other things and I took a break, back to school, took a break, went back to school. And so at the end of that 14 years, and at that time I was kind of interested in Japanese culture, I started studying Japanese.
Okay.
And I went there and then for a vacation, just me, for 3 weeks, had a great time. Came back, this was 93, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to keep studying Japanese. I don't know why, but I'm going to keep doing it. And I switched to a different language school, and I met these 2 women in my class, and they said, oh, yeah, we lived in Japan. We were teaching English. I said, you were living where? Teaching what? And I had no idea at that point in my life, I had no idea how big international education was. And I thought, wow, I could actually go there. I could learn the language. I could teach English. I can teach anything, I thought at that time. And so that's what I did. I found a job and I went there and I was and I had really great training. My trainers, two of my trainers were graduates of SIT up in Vermont, which is a pretty popular and famous school for learning how to be an English teacher. And and that's how I got my feet wet teaching. I started teaching English. That was I started in 1994. Yeah.
So interesting. That was how, actually, okay, good. So that was how you ended up actually, becoming an English teacher then. Interesting. That's a crazy story, in fact, because you were involved with music at first.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And when I told my music students that I was going to stop teaching music and move to Japan to teach English, they all looked at me like I had 6 heads and 2 noses. But I did, and that was the best thing I've ever done because for about 10 years in the early 2000s, I was in management, so I wasn't teaching a lot. I was mostly in the office.
Okay.
But I've been in the industry since 1994, and I love it. I love teaching, and I love helping people learn English. So it's
and before actually moving to Japan, and you started, of course, teaching English there.
The kids, and I love teaching, but it was just the public school system was not for me.
I got it.
And so, and just at that moment that I realized it was not for me, I fell into this idea of going overseas to teach English. The timing was perfect.
And you found yourself actually in this profession, I believe, right? Because you've been working. Yeah, you've been working as a teacher for so long now. What are the most challenging things Japanese students face learning English? Because, for example, I'm Brazilian, and I know exactly the problems that Brazilian students normally have. And so they tend to translate things literally from one language into the other. And it's really difficult for them to learn how to think differently when they're speaking English. And by the way, I listened to your last episode, the last episode of your podcast, and you pretty much talked about this, right? About literal translation, right?
Right. So, one thing that I've learned from teaching this long is that the only thing that translates well are nouns and tangible nouns. Like table. I'm sorry. I'll go like table.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
How do you say table in Portuguese?
Mesa.
Anybody who's a Portuguese speaker who knows that, it's a very, very clear. There's nothing that would be misunderstood usually when you translate things, table, cat, bottle. But other words like comfortable, or some words like, I heard a story one time that the native people who live in the very cold areas of North America have like 50 different words to talk about snow.
Really?
So like snow that has big flakes, snow that has small flakes, snow that's blowing, snow that's falling, snow that's floating, snow that's a little wet, snow that's a little dry. And that's culturally related because snow is an important part of their culture. And so I just call it snow. And so it's really hard to translate from one language to the other, things that are even culturally related.
Yeah.
And so I always tell my students, like, translating is good, having a bilingual dictionary is good, but it's also good to check one of those English dictionaries. Longman has a great one. It's online. It's free. There's the Urban Dictionary.
I know it.
And so your bilingual dictionary might help you when you don't know the English word, and then once you get the English word, it's good to check an English dictionary that has example sentences. That'll help you learn those words.
Okay, but just coming back to the question I asked you, and what about teaching Japanese students? What problems do they normally face learning English? Regarding, let's say, pronunciation, regarding understanding idioms and phrasal verbs. Oh my gosh, everybody has has problems understanding and using phrasal verbs. And phrasal verbs are an essential part of the language, huh?
Sure. So I think for Japanese students, when they study, so Japanese students basically study English starting in junior high school,
okay,
and throughout junior high school, and university. And the focus is reading and writing. And so they don't have they don't have very much opportunity to speak and listen to English. And the listening, I think, is a lot of like in the classroom when the teacher plays the CD or something like that. So there's not a lot of conversation. So they have a lot of knowledge. They have a lot of, grammar, a lot of vocabulary in their head, but getting it out and then having a conversation tends to be challenging for a lot of Japanese learners.
E aí, galera, curtiram a entrevista? Então aguardem que amanhã tem a segunda parte, às 6 horas da tarde, beleza? Não se esqueçam de deixar o like e também compartilhem e se inscrevam no canal caso vocês ainda não sejam inscritos. Vejo vocês amanhã às 6 horas da tarde. Peace!